This is my M1 MacBook Pro, and this laptop was launched back in 2020 with the M1 MacBook Air and M1 Mac Mini. Now you may remember that back in 2020, these people were going crazy about these laptops because this is the first time we'd seen Apple ditch the Intel chips and make their own chips and put them in their laptops. The performance was just really good. These seemed almost too good to be true. Well, I've been using this laptop for the past 1 year as my daily driver for browsing, watching videos, doing schoolwork, editing videos, photos, whatnot. And I've realized that while these laptops are really good at doing many things, they're also not perfect. There are definitely some problems with these, which we will definitely talk about. But I want to start by talking about the price, because I think this is the one thing that really determines whether we buy a product or not. Now, back in 2020, this laptop was $1,300 US, which is definitely not cheap. But at the time of recording this video, you can find these for $500 to $600, which is $700 to $800 cheaper. So a lot more affordable. But price is just one of the things that could matter. Depends on what are the other things that the laptop has to offer, and only then you can really say that based on this price, this is a good deal or not. So let's talk about the build quality. So this laptop and the M1 MacBook Air and even the M1 Mac Mini have an aluminum body, which is honestly very nice. It feels premium, solid. Feels nice. But what I really like is how thin and portable these laptops are. This one's just 3 pounds in weight, so it's not super heavy. And the M1 MacBook Air is even thinner and lighter, so it's even more portable. Now this screen is 13.3 inches diagonally and has a pixel density of 227, so it's very sharp. And it also gets very bright, goes all the way up to 500 nits, which may not sound like a lot, but honestly from my experience, I think this is pretty good because most of the times you're going to be using this laptop inside, not outdoors. Even if you do, you can totally see the screen. It's not like you won't be able to see what's on the screen. And this screen is also actually fairly color accurate. So I've used this screen for color correcting photos and videos, and it works very well for that. So you can totally use this for that kind of things. I guess the only thing I would say, the bezels are pretty big and huge, which doesn't look modern, like especially when you compare it to newer MacBooks. But considering everything else you're getting with this laptop at this price point, it's kind of hard to complain, especially about something like the design. The keyboard's also very nice. I've used many different keyboards over the years, and this is definitely one of the best I've ever used. The trackpad is equally good, if not better. And MacBooks are just known to have some of the best trackpads. So you are definitely getting the best of the best over here. Even the speakers and the microphones are honestly really good. Now where this laptop really shines is when it comes to performance. To put it simply, the M1 chip inside this thing is just amazing. You can throw pretty much anything at this laptop and it just does it without a problem. I'm talking about things an average user would do, not stuff like really heavy intensive gaming or video editing or 3D graphic work, not those kind of things. Although I have used this laptop for some basic video editing and photo editing, and it actually worked very well, significantly better than my expectations. If you're gonna use this laptop for browsing, watching videos, doing schoolwork, office work, stuff like that, I genuinely don't think you'll have any problems. And this is the base model with 8 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage, which also doesn't sound like a lot, but I can tell you from my experience that it's plenty for most people. And you can always just add external storage. That is always an option. It's not ideal, but you do have an option to do that. Now, as good as this laptop seems so far, it's definitely not perfect. There are some problems and shortcomings, which we'll talk about right after the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. So in this day and age, having a good online presence is the key to getting your next client or that dream job you've been looking at. And Squarespace makes it incredibly easy for you to do that. For example, they have pre-built templates to get started in literally minutes, and then you can drag and drop things and images and whatnot and type a few lines of text and you'll be done in a couple of hours. I've done this myself, so I know what I'm talking about. And then once you have a website, you can immediately start running email marketing campaigns. You can build a complete online store within Squarespace and sell digital or physical products and use their built-in SEO tools to reach your target audience. And you can also access all kinds of analytics about your site. You can even buy a custom domain from Squarespace. There's a reason why they call it the all-in-one platform. But hey, don't take my word for it. Visit squarespace.com/Spixel and start your 14-day free trial. If you like it, you'll get 10% off your first purchase. The link's below. And thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Okay, now the worst thing about this laptop, in my opinion, has to be the camera. This is a 720p camera, and I think in 2024, this is definitely a big no-no, even at this price. Now, this is pretty much in like perfect lighting, and you can see how it looks. And I mean, sure, it gets the job done. It's usable, but it could have been so much better. I've definitely used this in a few meetings, but
it's not great. And by the way, this is also how the microphones sound like, and I think they're pretty good.
The other thing that's not great about this laptop is the ports. It only has 2 USB-C ports, which although I haven't found to be limiting, I can see other people having a problem with that. But I don't think it's a deal breaker because you can get an adapter, and that's how I was able to connect many other things. And it seems to be a pretty good workaround. It's definitely not perfect though. I've also used this laptop with external monitors, although only one, but you can connect up to 2 if you'd like, which I think is good enough for the kind of people this laptop is meant for. The biggest deal breaker, however, in my opinion, has to be macOS. And it's not because it's difficult to use or anything like that. It's actually very good. I've used Windows for a long time and I switched to Mac and I found this to be very nice. But the problem is that some apps don't work on macOS. I've ran into this issue once before, and although it wasn't a huge problem for me, I was able to find a workaround, but from you, maybe that might be a huge problem, especially if you are, for example, an engineering student. But for pretty much everyone else, this is fine. You will still find a lot of apps that work on Windows and macOS. Now, last but not least, arguably one of the best things about this laptop, other than the performance, I guess, is the battery life. There's a 58.2 watt-hour battery inside this thing, and according to Apple, this thing should last 17 to 20 hours. Now, I can't tell you if that is true or not because I never really ended up using this laptop for 17 hours continuously. But what I can tell you is that just normally using this laptop, this thing will easily last 1 to 2 days at least, sometimes even like 3 days. Typically in a day, you will end up using a laptop for maybe 5 to 7 hours in total. And because of that, you should see this thing last at least 1 to 2 days. At least that's how it is for me. And that is honestly really good battery life. It's actually really hard to find that kind of battery life in other laptops, especially on the Windows side. For all of these M1 Macs, you can say that the older they have gotten, the better they have gotten because the performance isn't declining at the same rate at which the price is declining. So overall, considering everything, I think these M1 Macs are amazing even today. I would honestly have no problem recommending this or even the M1 MacBook Air to an average user. And actually, I think the M1 Mac Mini might be the best deal because not only is it cheaper, but also because it doesn't have a battery. So in the long run, it's gonna be a much better option. So if you were looking to buy one of these, I would say go ahead.